Okay, so now we're going to talk about triangle and how to play the triangle. First thing I want to talk about is the size of the triangle and the beater that you use on a triangle. Alright, this is a relatively skinny triangle, and it's going to have a very light, tinny sort of sound, especially with a very skinny beater. That's not a terrible sound, but it's not particularly full, and I'm not really a fan. I don't really like using skinny beaters, and I don't like using skinny triangles. I just don't think they sound very good. They're not very full. But sometimes you're just kind of stuck with what you have. So let's see what other beaters we happen to have here. All right, these two look basically the same, but I think this one's a little thicker than this one. So let's take this thin triangle. And this way it's being held to this thing is kind of a mess. We'll talk about that in a minute. So here's a thin beater hitting it. And then this is what it sounds like when you use a thicker beater. And you'll notice it sounds a lot fuller with the thicker beater. So I like the thicker beater, so we're going to hold on to that thicker beater. Let's check out this other triangle. This other triangle is a little thicker, and it's actually got some tone grooves in it on the edges. I'm not really sure scientifically how to explain to you how those grooves work, but they do add to the quality of the sound. And let me get this turned around. Okay, so let's listen to this triangle with a thin beater. And I'm not sure if you can tell on the recording, but this has a lot more focused tone already, which I like. Now let's use a thicker beater. So that focused tone is now very full sounding. This is my favorite triangle that we have here. This is my favorite beater. And for comparative purposes, here's a very large triangle and a very cheap large triangle. Here's what it sounds like with a thin beater. It's very dead sounding, not a whole lot going on. Here's a thicker beater. It's a fuller dead sound. It's not very awesome. So, we don't want that. And we also don't want this one. This one I like. Now, when you're playing triangle, you don't always have this. This is a clamp with a piece of string tied to it. For the best sound, you usually want to use something like a very thin piece of string, or maybe like some fishing line. Something thin that isn't going to muffle the sound of the triangle. When you play the triangle, you want to hold it up about this high, about eye level, because you want to get the sound to project over people's bodies who are sitting down in front of you in the orchestra. And when you play the triangle, you don't necessarily hit it down here. Usually you want to hit it over here somewhere. Not necessarily in the middle, but maybe just off the middle. If you hit it in the middle, it's not a huge difference in sound with this good triangle, but it's going to be a little less full in the middle. And then if you play on the very corner, it's not as full as well. So if you just need to do some general playing, that's a great spot to play it. You can get a similar sound down here, but it is different. If you need to do a triangle roll, usually the way to do it would be to do it in a corner. Like that. Now, if you need to muffle the triangle at different points, it's best to set this up kind of like this. And the way that I have the string is so it doesn't roll around on me or spin around on me. I try to be mindful of when I hit the triangle not to hit it so it does that. I try to be mindful to just hit it straight on so it doesn't spin around on me. So with this, my hand in this position, I can actually hold the string and keep it from moving around, but also I can muffle it with this hand if I need to as well. Okay, but sometimes you're busy and you can't always hold the triangle. So you can have this clip and set it on a stand. And they make different types of clips and different types of holders. This is just one example of doing it. And that's a hands-free approach of it. So now I don't have to hold this up. They do sometimes set it up where you can have 2 clips. And this is kind of junky, so we'll just get the idea across here. What I'm doing here is setting this up so that I have a basically 1 clip on each end of the triangle so that I can use 2 meters. And that's nice if you need to play very specific rhythms that are quicker, that you can't really do with one hand, and you need your hands free to do this instead of worrying about the triangle spinning and all that kind of stuff. All right. Into the